Welcome in, everybody, to another week of UFL Weekly, the final UFL Weekly of the season. We'll get to that later, but for right now, we've got championship to discuss. We've got some next year news already being discussed. We've got players already signing to the NFL. But before we dive into all that, hello, I'm Kyle Krajewski, joined by calling this every week, Mr. Beautiful, Mr. Fantastic, Zach Cole. Zach, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm a little upset, I guess. Maybe I'm not doing as well as I have in the last couple weeks because we don't have any more UFL football to look forward to. But I guess I'll find joy in the reminiscence of this week of looking back on the season and discussing some of the things that happened last week.
Yeah, and just kind of keeping up with the UFL guys making their way into the NFL.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of that currently taking place, less than a week after the season began. And before I list out names, I wanted to talk about uh, Daryl Johnston kind of making some, I guess, quick announcements both at the championship time and speaking for next season specifically. I think Fox announced that we'll most likely be having, I don't think it's official yet, but the UFL will most likely be having Friday night football next season. We'll be probably
Nice.
seeing some Friday night, a game on Saturday, and then a game or two on Sunday, sprinkled throughout the weekend there. It's pretty nifty. He also basically came out and said zero intentions on relocating any of the current team or expanding for next season. So this offseason, cut it with all the rumors for any new teams for 2025. Staying put at 8, staying put at their current locations. And I personally think that's the right decision. I know we've talked about this
hmm
earlier this season, but I think we're both kind of on the same page there.
Yeah, I think the league needs to grow a little bit in its current state before they're ready to start moving on and spreading resources out to other areas. I also think for the same reason, that's probably why it's beneficial for them to stay in their current locations as well. Clearly, we saw that there was a very clear upper echelon of team and a very clear lower echelon of team in this year's iteration of the UFL. So I think that the next year or two is going to be spent kind of leveling out that field and making it a more competitive league top to bottom. And I think relocating and expanding take away from that. So I think that that's probably a good part of the reason why we see Daryl Johnson saying that it's probably going to stay as is.
And I know we've touched on this before, but I think something that this league really benefits from, their best players move up, or I guess
Mhm.
are most likely not returning next year, which is it's like the college situation of yeah, the team's good this year, but are they keeping all the good players this coming year?
Mhm.
Who's to say? And I think it kind of comes down to good coaching, and I think we saw it with Skip Holtz again this year that head coaching matters. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but the UFL will look different player wise most likely next year. Probably just a good different crop of players, but same location, same teams, and I'm a fan.
Mhm. Definitely.
Next year, I'm just gonna list them out. All the players who have officially signed to NFL teams from the UFL to the NFL. Uh, I'm not going to talk about speculation. All the people who have, there's tons of players who are meeting with teams. These are all pen to paper. They've already signed. Just running down the list in order of team name. Uh, Renegades defensive end Jalen Redmond signed with the Vikings. Stallions had two players. Linebacker Dondria Tillman signed with the Broncos, and running back Ricky Person signed with the Seattle Seahawks. Defenders also had two. Cornerback Gary Conley and guard Liam Fornadell. Conley went to the Cowboys. Fornadell going with the Patriots. Both the Showboats and the Panthers had one player so far. Probably to me the two biggest players on this list, but
Mhm.
plenty more to come. David Davis, wide receiver for the Showboat, signed with the Panthers, and honestly, probably has a quicker route to participation there. And my personal favorite, kicker Jake Bates of the Panthers signed with the Lions. Go Lions, go Jake Bates. Proud of you there. Brahmas had two players, offensive lineman Cole Laval signed with the Jets, and defensive tackle Prince Emily signed with the Falcons. Battlehawks had two. Willie Harvey Jr., linebacker, signed with the Cowboys, and running back Jacob Sailors signed with the Giants. Only team missing from this list is the Houston Roughnecks, but they've got plenty of players too that will probably get a few shots this offseason in the NFL this preseason. But that is it for right now. Currently pen to paper with the NFL.
I think we're going to see this go in waves a little bit. I think this
Yeah.
is kind of like wave one of guys that are going. I mean, obviously the championship just wrapped up this past weekend, so we see a couple Stallions and a couple Brahmas on here, but I think with those two teams being clearly the best teams, we'll see more guys from those teams get shots. I also think that as we go through training camp in the NFL, guys get hurt inevitably and need replacements, and I think that we'll see some more guys sign as the NFL offseason progresses. So this is an incredible beginning wave of players, we'll say, and I mean there's 4 or 5 names on here that are definitely big-time UFL names that are getting a chance at the next level, so very cool to see. And as you mentioned with Jake Bates, clearly the Lions, they love going after their kickers.
Staying in Detroit, Ford Field.
Absolutely. So, and if he pans out even half as well as Brandon Aubrey did for the Cowboys, they're going to be in business with that one. So good for him. Great fit. I love it. That's awesome.
And I think missing from this list, I think because it's one of those not official pen to paper, I think Ramez Ahmed was with the Commanders. But again, speculation, unofficial. Yeah, I think you're right. I think as training camp and preseason practices go on, these NFL teams are going to be like, oh, we need more depth at running back and sign a few UFL guys. More depth here and there. Finding out where they need the depth, where they need have weaknesses, and that's kind of where these UFL guys are immediately ready to step in and participate and ball out, as we've seen them do all spring.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's fun to see these guys kind of move on to the next level, and I mean, I'm probably overlooking a couple people just off the top of my head, but hopefully we can see some of these guys succeed at a little bit of a higher level than we saw some of the guys from the XFL last year. I feel like a bunch of them got shots, and we never really kind of heard about any of them succeeding at a super high level. You know, I mean, obviously AJ McCarron as a backup, a couple other guys throughout the league, but you know, it'll be cool to see if some of these guys get a real shot at some playing time.
Yeah, get Hakeem Butler on a team for one.
Seriously.
Please.
Yep, absolutely.
And John Trey Kirkland. I'm in. Although, Kirkland, good segue here. Kirkland had a rough past week as the Birmingham Stallions walk right in to their spring football three-peat. The Birmingham Stallions defeated the San Antonio Brahmas in the first UFL championship 25-0. The first shutout of the season, by the way. First shutout happens in the championship game, and it is coming at the hands of the Birmingham Stallions, who have already won back-to-back USFL championships. Just coming right into this new league and being like, we still run this one too. And sure enough, they do. Overall, Birmingham capitalized on a bunch of San Antonio's mistakes. John Trey Kirkland, the aforementioned John Trey Kirkland, fumbled twice, and then just a bunch of drives from San Antonio that just went nowhere. I texted you, I think, after the first quarter, maybe midway through the second quarter, and just being like, 0-0.
What is going on? Yeah.
And it took the Stallions until like 40 seconds left in the first half to put up an 8-point score, and then just carried it away from there. bonkers outcome to end the season, and we both knew it was going to be a defensive showdown. We kind of talked heavily about that last week. It just the Brahmas offense was not able to push past it, while we saw the Stallions take control of that second half.
It really is like the poster child game for defenses win championships.
Yeah.
Like literally, this is it. I mean, throwing up a shutout and just doing it in such dominant fashion. I mean, it took a little bit of time for Birmingham to get their offense going. Only going up by a touchdown in the first half, and then finally tacking on those extra points throughout the second half. But I mean, it was really kind of an impressive performance from a couple defensive players, and I'll kind of let you highlight Martinez's game and everything when I toss it back over. But we talked pre-show. Kayava Tizino, who is the linebacker for the Stallions. I mean, he had a very good case to be the old defensive MVP, championship MVP, because he was all over the place. He had 9 tackles and 2 forced fumbles, and even managed to pick one up, and just a really dominant game. And that kind of thing can just swing a game. So it's, like I said, the defense win championships mentality, and the defense kept them in this game when they were trying to get the offense rolling, and it finally ended up turning out, and Adrian Martinez got his act together a little bit in the second half.
Yeah, it was a lot of. You nailed it. It was a defensive game. Defense wins championship, and in this case, the absolute best defense won. I think these were the 2 best defenses throughout the season. So no surprise that this came down to a defensive showdown at the end of the season. Stallions just coming away with, I guess, the most perfect defensive outcome. So perfect spot to show up. Fantastic. But as you mentioned, Adrian Martinez, the MVP of the championship game, the UFL's MVP of the championship game. I think Zach and I are both in agreement. It might have been Tizino, but we're not announcing that. That's not here. But Adrian Martinez scored 2 rushing touchdowns. He threw a passing touchdown to end basically that first half, and then just kind of took over on the ground in the second half. 2 rushing touchdowns from Martinez, 1 in the air, and in total didn't pass. I think he hit exactly 150 total yards. Threw for under 100, rushed for 52, 3 touchdowns. That is an efficient game. Ricky Person, who we can say has officially signed with the Seattle Seahawks. Ricky Person came and finished the game with 102 yards rushing on the ground, especially a monstrous 44-yard rush, and just having a game, having a great game there from Person, deserving that NFL contract. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, Tizino, Martinez having 2 rushing, 1 passing. The Brahmas offense just fell flat. No rusher, ran for over 35 yards. Leading rusher, Anthony McFarland, finished with 32, and McFarland was Calvin Turner was the leading receiver with 49 yards. It was just complete dominance from the Stallions defense. And with that, they stole the show. They came away with that win. But I think the big one was Kirkland coming away or losing 2 balls. Not necessarily what a championship team wants to see. So,
do you think that there was any consideration on Skip Holtz's part of benching Martinez going into halftime? I mean, he punched in that touchdown right before halftime, but his first couple drives ended, I think one of them was a 3 and out, one was maybe an extra play or 2 above a 3 and out. But I mean, he was struggling in that early first half. So, do you think that ever crossed his mind to get him out?
I'm sure it did, but I'm sure. I mean, Holtz is a mastermind at the
Hmm.
coaching position. But I think he understood that he probably still had this game in grasp. And it's not like Martinez was throwing the game away. I don't
Correct.
think he saw Martinez. I think what he probably saw was if I put Corral in there, we'd probably be in the same situation. Let's keep
Hmm.
Martinez out there. Keep that going. Let's not lose anything there. And I bet that touchdown right before half was perfect and being like, all right, nope, we're gonna roll with this. I think he just saw Brahma's defense playing really well and probably,
Yeah.
quite honestly, probably did not have as good of a combat with Corral under center.
Yeah, I think if they had been in the whole 12 points, 14 points, 20 points, anything like that, I definitely could have seen the change happening. But I think it being a shutout by the defense was kind of giving Martinez some more leeway, to kind of, take his time and get things rolling a little bit more. And obviously it worked out for him, in the end, ended up with 3 total touchdowns. So it was clearly the right decision. And I honestly, I think if you would have put Corral in there, it could have gone the same way too. I think he could have turned the game around for them as well. Obviously, I can't speculate that, but I can't, I say that with confidence, but we can speculate about it and just kind of assume what might have been. But kudos to Martinez
For
for
sure.
coming in and putting up a great performance and ended up with 2 MVPs this season.
Yeah, two MVPs, the league wide and the championship MVP.
Pretty cool.
Shout out to you,
Pretty cool.
Adrian Martinez. Shout out to you, Birmingham Stallions. Fantastic season, fantastic game. You officially defeated every team in the league this year,
Yeah, that was it.
and it took the big game to knock it out.
The Brahmas were their white whale.
And it really seemed like they treated it as such.
Yeah.
So, man, fantastic game. Uh, wow. Yeah, I can't believe 25-0.
Kyle, one last point I just want to
I'm
throw in
listening.
about the championship game, and it has nothing to do with the actual game, but it was really, really cool to see Tom Brady get involved in the game as well.
Yeah.
As a commentator, as the official, I don't know, game ball guy, whatever, however he was involved in the game. It was very, very cool to see him, such a big name, tie into the UFL and really kind of validate it, I think, as a legitimate league. And it was so cool to see that all the guys were just so appreciative of Tom Brady and so excited to, like, I mean, that's literally like Batman showing up to your birthday party, like that's such a good
He's here.
feeling
He's here.
for
Look
these
at me.
guys. Yeah. And I mean, some of these guys have never made a roster, have never gotten the opportunity to play with someone of that caliber. So
Yeah.
it's really, really cool to see him, like I said, kind of like legitimize this league and validate these guys and all their hard work that they've been putting in.
Yeah, I got to give a lot of props to the Fox broadcast team season long. I think they just put just overall Fox Sports put their heart and I guess love into this league. Kind of
Hmm.
carrying over from what they put into the USFL in previous years. I it was they impressed me every week, and then basically we're just like, oh, that's the championship. Let's bring out the guy. Let's bring out one. Let's bring out Tom Brady because it's Tom Brady. But two, let's bring out our new broadcaster for that you guys will be seeing during the NFL season. So it was huge on both fronts and huge for the UFL in general. Uh, I I love it, man. Um,
Yeah. And I'll bet while some people didn't tune in for the whole entire game, some people tuned in just to watch Tom Brady commentate for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you get the major news outlets basically saying, "Oh, Tom Brady's going to be out here for this
Yep,
game,
his first
doing
game.
something." People are like, "Oh, yeah, I'll tune in for Tom Brady." Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
probably it gives that extra like
pretty cool.
reminder to people that aren't in tune with this league that this
Right.
league is still taking place. It's like, oh, I'll check out Tom Brady.
Yeah,
Check out what's going on
very
over
cool.
here. Very
Very, very
cool.
cool.
All right, everyone, those of you tuning in still, which I hope is all of you. Um, few end of year notes as we wrap up here our championship game recap. We are gonna take a little bit of break. No, like we're gonna still stick around. We love this league. We love kind of doing this little podcast shindig here. The issue is Zach and I are like, what are we gonna beat ourselves over these next few weeks talking about? So we kind of made a decision to say, all right, let's put out an episode for when there's drafts, whether it's rookie draft, whether it's like a player, new player draft. We'll recap those. We'll stick around if you hear those announced. I don't think they've been announced, but I think they're happening. I don't think there's been official dates. When those come around, we'll be around. If any big news drops, whether it's I don't want to say relocation, but relocation or merger, maybe they are bringing in the Arena League. All not happening, but just kind of saying, like, if there's news, we'll kind of put together a little episode too. But overall, we'll be returning to weekly, probably back next February. The league will most likely begin again late February into March and kick off there. Actually, this year it started in March.
I believe we started in March, somewhere around that Easter weekend. It was Easter, right? That weekend?
Yeah, I think so. So as the league starts to renew, I think we're aiming for a February return, kind of do off-season recaps, preseason, all that fun stuff. We'll be here for that. As basically training camp begins, we'll be back. We'll be beginning. That's kind of when we'll be returning weekly. But, if you like, comment and subscribe and turn on whatever the bell is, you'll see us when we return and when we're so. Do that if you are anxiously waiting for the next UFL Weekly episode. It won't be weekly, but it will be next year. So yeah, all that in general to say, thank you for tuning in all these weeks.
Absolutely. Yep.
We'll be around. We're still around. Find us on social media. Reach out. I'm not just turning off notifications of the account. I'll probably still be specifically on X or Twitter. I'll still be retweeting and reposting, commenting on a bunch of UFL stuff. So we'll be active. We're not disappearing. This is just talk to you later.
Yeah.
So with that announced, thank you again. Thank you for another fantastic year. And UFL / previous XFL. Bring back the pick'ems next year. We need them. They were fantastic.
Yeah, we
XFL
needed
last
that.
year.
Yeah. Oh man.
If they don't bring it back, we're making our own thing.
Hey, we could do that. We could run it through a Google form or something, just something simple,
Yeah, something fun. Maybe I'll design a web app this fall.
That'd be pretty cool.
But yeah, in the meantime, as UFL ends and NFL season appeared, Zach reminded me that we also do fantasy football stuff. First seed sports. I started there because on Instagram it's First Seed Fantasy, but find us on YouTube, First Seed Sports. We'll be picking up some mock drafts, getting some fantasy stuff out there shortly. As UFL ends, it's just like, all right, UFL into fantasy, into UFL, into fantasy.
It's a never-ending cycle.
Soon enough, it's going to be fantasy UFL.
Right.
I'm hoping fantasy UFL.
You know what?
Soon.
The sports, the football worlds are kind enough to give us like a little brief enjoyment period of March Madness, and then we go right back into UFL.
They know when to give us our break.
Yeah. Yep. Well put.
I appreciate that, football god. So find us at First Seed. In the meantime, we're on X / Twitter at UFO Weekly. I'll still be around. We'll still be around. And we'll be here whenever drafts or news happen. Count on it.
You bet.
All right, everyone. Fantastic year. Thank you for tuning in.
Cheers to a great season.
Shout out to the Stallions, UFL champion. Shout out Jake Bates, you have my heart. Thank you all again. Thank you for tuning in. Talk to you next time.
See ya.